My fiance's friend sent me video from her bachelorette party. She was having fun with two strangers.
5 days before our wedding in Las Vegas, I sent the video to her parents, canceled the wedding, and moved away from the apartment. A few days later, she called me back, crying.
Let me tell you about the night my perfect life transformed into something unrecognizable, something cold, disorienting, and impossible to ignore. My name is Adrian Mercer, and until 3 days ago, I believed I was one of the luckiest men in Seattle. I had a beautiful fiancée named Elara, a wedding scheduled down to the last meticulously arranged detail, and what I believed was a bond of trust that could not be broken. It turns out I was simply another man who mistook confidence for devotion and charm for loyalty. I'm sitting in my home office as I tell this, staring at a laptop screen that now feels less like a tool and more like a witness. The aftershock of what happened hasn't faded. It lingers in the silence between thoughts, in the way my chest tightens when I replay that moment. I make a living solving problems. I'm an IT consultant. Networks, systems, security failures. I'm trained to detect anomalies, diagnose vulnerabilities, and correct them efficiently. What I never learned, apparently, was how to recognize a failure in my own relationship. The wedding was supposed to happen this Saturday, 5 days from now. Everything was paid for, organized, confirmed. Elara had left for her bachelorette trip in Las Vegas with a group of friends. She told me it would be relaxed, yoga classes, spa treatments, maybe some wine tasting. She laughed when she said it, kissed me at the airport, and promised she was saving her energy for our honeymoon. I believed her without hesitation. After 3 years together and 8 months of engagement, trust had become automatic. She was beautiful, driven, sharp-witted when she chose to be. Yes, she could be self-focused at times, but I told myself that confidence often looks like intensity. At 38, I thought I had finally found the person I would build a life with. She was scheduled to return Monday night. Instead, I received a brief text message. Flight delayed, back tomorrow afternoon, miss you, followed by an excessive string of heart emojis. It didn't concern me. Travel complications happen, plans shift. Nothing about it seemed unusual. Tuesday evening, just after 8, my phone vibrated with a message from Leela Chen, Elara's closest friend since college. Leela had been part of the trip. She had never contacted me directly before unless it involved group logistics or courtesy coordination. Her message was simple, but heavy with urgency. Adrian, we need to talk. This is important. Check your email. Something in my chest tightened immediately. Instinct, perhaps the same instinct that guides me in my profession, told me something had already broken. I opened my laptop and refreshed my inbox. A new message appeared with the subject line, "I'm sorry, but you need to see this before Saturday." The email itself was brief and restrained. She wrote that she had struggled with the decision for 2 days, that she knew what she was about to show me would cause pain, but that allowing me to marry without knowing the truth would be worse. She apologized. She told me I deserved honesty. There was a video attachment. My hands were unsteady when I clicked it. What I saw dismantled every belief I held about the woman I intended to marry in 5 days. The footage appeared to be recorded discreetly, likely from a partially open doorway. It showed Elara in a hotel suite with 2 men I did not recognize. She was not disoriented or uncertain. There was no confusion in her behavior. What destroyed me was not only the betrayal itself, but her demeanor. She was laughing, speaking clearly, fully aware of what she was doing. At one point, she joked about how I would react if I ever discovered it. She dismissed the possibility with amusement, treating deception as something clever rather than cruel. I watched the entire 12 minutes. I don't know why I forced myself to finish it. Perhaps I needed certainty. Perhaps denial required complete evidence to collapse. There was no ambiguity, no misunderstanding, no context that softened the reality. It was deliberate betrayal, carried out with comfort and enthusiasm. When the video ended, I sat motionless for nearly an hour. Shock is often described as numbness, but that's not entirely accurate. It felt more like absence, like something essential had been removed from inside me without warning. The future I believed in vanished in a single moment, replaced by clarity that felt surgical in its precision. Then something shifted. Emotion receded, replaced by focus. A problem had presented itself, and solving problems is what I do. I picked up my phone and began making calls. The wedding venue was first. I introduced myself and instructed them to cancel the reservation scheduled for Saturday. The coordinator began discussing policies, deposits, timelines. I stopped her, gently but firmly. None of that mattered. The event would not happen. Next came the caterer. Then the photographer, the band, the florist. Each call dismantled another carefully arranged piece of what had once felt like certainty. Some vendors attempted persuasion. Others expressed concern. I responded the same way each time. The wedding is canceled. Please update your records. There was a strange sense of order in the process. Each cancellation removed another layer of illusion. When the logistics were complete, I forwarded Leela's email with the video attached to Elara's parents. My message was brief and direct. I explained why the wedding would not take place and stated when the footage had been recorded. I told them they deserved to know. Her parents belonged to a world defined by reputation, tradition, and public perception. Her father had built a respected career in banking. Her mother devoted herself to charitable leadership and social circles governed by expectation. They had always treated me politely, though I sensed they viewed my profession as less distinguished than they had hoped for their daughter. Still, they had celebrated the engagement with enthusiasm. Her mother, in particular, had approached the wedding with ceremonial importance. They were going to be absolutely devastated. I knew that with a certainty that settled heavy in my chest the moment I pressed send. For a few minutes, there was silence, an eerie calm that felt less like peace and more like the pause before impact. Then my phone lit up. George's name flashed across the screen first. I watched it ring until it stopped. Moments later, Patricia called, then George again. Their calls came in waves, each vibration of the phone echoing through the quiet house like a warning siren. I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't ready to hear grief, confusion, or demands for explanations. I barely understood my own emotions. I couldn't manage theirs. Around 11 that night, my sister Ren called. Unlike the others, I answered. Ren owns a bar in Capitol Hill and approaches life with blunt honesty and zero patience for pretense. If anyone could cut through the chaos, it was her. "Nate, what the hell is going on?" she demanded without greeting. "Patricia Sutherland just called me crying, asking if I knew where you were. She mentioned a video and said the wedding is off. Are you okay?" I told her everything, from Leela's message, to the video, to the cancellations. I described it calmly, clinically, like I was presenting a case study rather than reliving the collapse of my future. Ren didn't interrupt once. That alone told me how serious she understood the situation to be. When I finished, there was a long, heavy silence on the line. "Jesus, Nate," she finally said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "I'm so sorry, but honestly, I never liked her. She always seemed like she was performing when you were around, like she was playing a role." "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked. "Would you have listened?" she replied gently. "You were completely in love with her. I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe she really did care about you." Another pause followed. "What are you going to do when she gets back tomorrow?" Ren asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "Well, whatever happens, I've got your back," she said firmly. "And Nate, you did the right thing canceling everything. Don't give her the chance to twist this or make excuses. What she did, that's unforgivable." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of scotch and sat alone in the living room. Wedding gifts surrounded me, stacked boxes of china, crystal glassware, kitchen appliances still sealed in pristine packaging. They had once represented a beginning. Now they looked like evidence from a life that no longer existed. My phone continued to buzz with calls and messages, but I ignored them all. I needed quiet. I needed space to understand what came next. Just after midnight, a message from Leela appeared. "I saw that you forwarded the email to her parents. Good. She deserves the truth. I should have told you months ago. This isn't the first time she's cheated. I just didn't have proof before." The words struck like another blow. This hadn't been a single reckless decision. It was a pattern, a habit, a reality I had been blind to while building a future around her. I replied simply, "Thank you for telling me. I know that wasn't easy." "She's going to hate me," Leela wrote back. "But I couldn't let you marry her. You deserve someone who actually loves you." I finished my drink and went to bed aware that sleep would be shallow and temporary. Tomorrow would bring confrontation. Tomorrow she would return expecting normalcy. Instead, she would find consequences. Her flight was scheduled to land at 3 in the afternoon. I knew because I had tracked it obsessively all morning, even though I had no intention of meeting her. She would likely expect flowers, a smile, eager questions about her trip. That version of reality no longer existed. I spent the morning packing her belongings. She hadn't officially moved in, but over 6 months she had gradually occupied half my life and half my space. Her clothes filled my closet. Her skincare products dominated the bathroom counter. Her books, magazines, and accessories were scattered throughout the house like markers of permanence. Every item I placed into a box felt like removing something invasive. Silk blouses she adored, designer shoes that cost more than most people's rent, framed photos capturing moments that now felt staged rather than shared. Each box sealed another chapter closed. I was taping up the third box when the doorbell rang. 4:30 p.m. She must have come straight from the airport. Before I reached the door, I heard her key turning in the lock. She entered, pulling her suitcase behind her, glowing with the effortless polish she carried everywhere. Sun-kissed skin, perfectly styled hair, the composure of someone convinced the world still operated in her favor. "Babe, I missed you so much," she said brightly, dropping her bag and stepping toward me with open arms. I stepped back. "Don't." Confusion flickered across her face. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "How was Vegas?" I asked evenly. "It was amazing," she said without hesitation. "We had so much fun. Yoga on the rooftop, massages, shows, very relaxing." She smiled, that radiant smile that once felt like warmth. Now it felt like performance. "I got you something," she added, pulling a small gift bag from her purse. "Just a little souvenir." I didn't take it. Instead, I opened the video on my phone and held it out toward her. "I already got my souvenir." Her expression collapsed the moment recognition dawned. She watched for only a few seconds before reaching toward the screen. "Turn that off." I pulled the phone away. "Why? You seem to be enjoying yourself." "Adrian, I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked quietly. "Explain how you were with 2 strangers 3 days before our wedding. Explain how you laughed about me." She sank onto the couch, composure fracturing. "It wasn't supposed to happen. We were drinking and—" "Stop," I said. "I watched all 12 minutes. You weren't confused. You weren't coerced. You were fully aware of what you were doing." Tears streamed down her face, but they stirred nothing in me. No instinct to comfort, no reflex to forgive, only clarity. "Leela sent it, didn't she?" she snapped suddenly. "She's been jealous of me the whole trip." "Because what?" I asked, my voice low but steady. "Because she has a conscience. Because she couldn't stand the idea of watching me marry someone who treats betrayal like a hobby." Elara shook her head, tears spilling faster now. "It's not like that, Adrian. I love you. I want to marry you. This was just a stupid mistake." "A mistake," I repeated slowly, tasting the word like something bitter. "A mistake that you filmed?" "I didn't know Leela was recording," she said quickly. "She must have been spying on us." "Oh," I replied, letting the implication hang in the air. "So your only regret is that you got caught?" Her composure unraveled completely then. Mascara streaked down her cheeks in uneven lines, her voice breaking between sobs. "Please, we can work through this. Couples therapy, counseling, anything you want. The wedding is in 3 days." "No," I said quietly. "It isn't." She blinked up at me, confusion replacing desperation. "What do you mean?" "There is no wedding, Elara. I canceled everything yesterday. The venue, the caterer, the band, the flowers, every last detail." Her face drained of color. "You can't do that. We paid deposits. My parents invited everyone." "Your parents know exactly why there isn't a wedding," I replied evenly. I sent them the video. The shock that overtook her expression was so complete, it almost felt surreal to witness. Almost. "You didn't." "I did. You should check your phone." I imagine you have some very interesting voicemails waiting." Her hands trembled as she fumbled through her purse. She unlocked her screen, and I watched recognition and dread bloom across her face. Missed calls stacked one after another. Her mother, her father, relatives, family, friends. The network of reputation she had spent years cultivating was collapsing in real time. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Adrian, how could you do this to me?" I let out a short laugh that carried no humor. "How could I do this to you? That's what you're asking. You cheat on me with two strangers, mock me while doing it, and I'm the villain for telling the truth. My reputation is ruined," she said weakly. "My family will never forgive me." "Maybe next time you'll consider consequences before you decide to betray someone who trusted you," I replied. Her posture shifted abruptly, tears giving way to anger. "You know what? Fine. If you want to be vindictive, if you want to destroy my life over one mistake." "One mistake?" I interrupted. "Leela told me this isn't the first time. How many others were there, Elara? How long have you been making a fool of me?" Her expression hardened. "That's none of your business anymore." "You're right," I said, moving toward the door where the packed boxes sat waiting. "It isn't." I set the boxes beside her suitcase. "Your things are here, take them and leave." She stared at me, stunned. "Where am I supposed to go? My parents won't even talk to me now." "That stopped being my concern the moment you decided I was disposable," I said. For several seconds, she studied me, searching for weakness, recalculating strategies. I recognized the shift in her eyes, the instinct to negotiate, persuade, regain control. "Adrian, please," she said more softly. "I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I'll do anything. I'll quit my job. We can move somewhere new, start over." "There is no we," I replied. "There's you, there's me, and there's a video of you betraying everything we built. Geography doesn't change character." "I didn't mean what I said in that video," she insisted. "I was just trying to sound impressive in front of them. People say stupid things when they're trying to impress others." "No," I said calmly. "I don't know what that feels like, because when I try to impress people, I don't betray the person I claim to love." My phone rang then. Her father's name appeared on the screen. "That's George," I said, answering before she could protest. "Hello, Adrian," he said, voice strained. "Thank God, we need to talk. Can you come over? Patricia is beside herself. We need to understand what happened." I glanced at Elara, who was shaking her head frantically. "I'll be there in an hour," I said, ending the call. "Don't you dare," she hissed. I picked up my keys. "Watch me." "Adrian, wait," but I was already walking out the door. The drive gave me time to think, not about reconciliation, but about closure. Her parents had welcomed me into their world, trusted me with their daughter's future. They deserved honesty, even if it shattered their expectations. Their home stood in Bellevue's most exclusive neighborhood, a sprawling estate that spoke of legacy and status. Patricia opened the door before I knocked. Her usual elegance had been replaced by visible distress. Red eyes, trembling hands, composure fractured. "Adrian, dear, please come in. George is in his study." She led me through immaculate hallways that felt unusually silent, like a house holding its breath. George sat behind his desk, shoulders heavy, expression carved from disbelief. "Sit down," he said quietly. "We need to talk." I took the same chair where months earlier he had given his blessing for our marriage. "Is it real?" Patricia asked from the doorway, her voice fragile. "The video?" "It's real," I said. George leaned forward. "How can we be sure it wasn't fabricated? Technology can manipulate images now. Your daughter spent an hour at my house explaining it," I said gently. "She never denied it. She admitted everything." Patricia let out a sound of raw anguish. "How could she do this 3 days before her wedding?" she whispered. "I don't know," I replied, "but she did." George's voice grew formal, controlled. "What do you want from us? Financial compensation. We can cover the expenses." "I don't want anything," I said. "You asked me to come. I came because you deserve the truth." Patricia clasped her hands together. "People make terrible mistakes when they're young. With counseling, with time, surely this can be repaired." "She cheated with 2 men at once while mocking our relationship," I said quietly. "Then she lied when she came home. That isn't a mistake you repair. That's a decision." Silence settled heavily across the room. George studied me for a long moment. What will you do now? Move forward, I said. Find someone who values honesty. And Elara will have to figure out her own life, I said quietly. She's an adult, she made her choices, and now she lives with them. Patricia's composure finally broke. She covered her mouth as fresh tears spilled over. She's our only child, Adrian. We love her more than anything, but what she did, I don't understand it. I don't understand how we raised someone capable of being so cruel. You didn't raise her to be cruel, I said gently, and I meant every word. You raised her to be confident, independent, strong-willed. Those are good qualities, but somewhere along the way, she decided those traits meant she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. That decision wasn't yours. That was hers. George gave a slow, weary nod, absorbing the distinction. You're a good man, Adrian, he said at last. I'm sorry our daughter wasn't worthy of you. The words struck deeper than I expected. Until that moment, anger had been carrying me forward like a current. But hearing that, spoken without defensiveness, without excuse, cracked something open inside me. I realized I wasn't just losing Elara. I was losing the family I had quietly come to care about. Sunday dinners, polite conversations, the fragile but genuine sense of belonging, all of it dissolved in a matter of hours. I should go, I said, rising from the chair. My voice felt heavier than before, weighed down by something more complicated than rage. Patricia followed me to the door and embraced me tightly. I'm so sorry, dear, truly. If you ever need anything, you know you can call. I nodded, unable to find words that wouldn't break apart on the way out. The drive home felt strangely hollow. The fury that had fueled me was still there, but beneath it stretched a deep, aching sadness. In less than 24 hours, the structure of my future had collapsed. The life I had carefully planned, marriage, stability, partnership, had vanished, leaving nothing but silence where certainty used to be. When I pulled into the driveway, Elara's car was gone. Inside, the house felt unfamiliar, like a stage after the actors had left. Her key rested on the kitchen counter beside a neatly folded piece of paper. I picked it up and read. Adrian, I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that I did love you. I still do. What I did was unforgivable, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I hope someday you find happiness with someone who deserves you. Elara, I stared at the note for several seconds, searching for something. Remorse, truth, closure. Finding none, I crumpled it and dropped it into the trash. Then I poured another scotch and sat in the living room, surrounded by unopened wedding gifts. Boxes of crystal, china, appliances, all symbols of a life that no longer existed. They looked less like presents now, and more like evidence from a crime scene. I sat there for a long time, trying to imagine what rebuilding even looked like. Morning arrived with relentless efficiency. My phone began vibrating at 7 sharp. The first call came from Derek Walsh, my best man and closest friend since college. His voice carried a mix of confusion and urgency. Nate, what the hell is going on? The venue just called me saying the wedding is canceled. Tell me this is a mistake. I gave him the condensed version, sparing him the worst details. When I finished, silence lingered on the line. Jesus, I'm so sorry, man, Derek said finally. What can I do? Nothing, I replied. It's done. Have you talked to her? She picked up her things and left. That was the last conversation. Good, he said firmly. Don't let her back in, not for apologies, not for explanations. You dodged a bullet. The calls didn't stop there. Friends, relatives, groomsmen, each conversation demanded emotional energy I barely possessed. Some offered genuine support. Others struggled to reconcile their perception of Elara with reality. A few suggested I was reacting too harshly. Come on, Nate, one mutual friend insisted. It was a bachelorette party, things get wild, doesn't mean she doesn't love you. She mocked me while betraying me, I replied flatly. That isn't chaos. That's character. The most difficult call came from Jessica, Elara's maid of honor. Her tone carried accusation from the first word. She's devastated, Jessica said sharply. How could you humiliate her like this? Sending that video to her parents was cruel. She cheated on me days before our wedding. So, you weren't married yet, Jessica argued. Technically, she didn't do anything wrong. I almost laughed at the logic. Trust isn't a legal contract, it's a choice. You're throwing away 3 years over one night. No, I corrected. She did. Her voice hardened. You'll regret this. She's beautiful, successful, sophisticated. You won't find anyone better. Maybe not, I said calmly, but I'll find someone honest. When she crossed the line into insults, I ended the call and blocked her number. I had no patience left for people who treated betrayal like an inconvenience. Around midday, Leela called. How are you holding up? She asked softly. I've had better weeks, I admitted. Thank you again for telling me the truth. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't, she said. But there's something you should know. Jessica and some of the bridesmaids are telling people you made the whole story up. They're saying you panicked and canceled the wedding. I sighed. Let them talk. The truth doesn't need defense. I have more footage from that night, Leela continued. Longer clips, different angles. If you need proof, I'll send them. Keep them, I said. I may need them later. She's been calling me nonstop, Leela added, begging me to say I lied. And will you? No, she said firmly. She stopped being my friend the moment she asked me to help cover this up. What she did was unforgivable, I told Leela during that last call, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. And I'm not going to help her cover it up. Not now. Not ever. After we hung up, the silence inside my house became unbearable. Every room felt like a museum exhibit of a life that no longer existed. The walls seemed to echo with conversations that had never really been honest. So that afternoon, I grabbed my keys and drove across town to my sister's bar. If there was anywhere I could breathe without pretending to be okay, it was there. Ren spotted me the second I stepped through the door. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't offer platitudes. She simply poured a cold beer, set it in front of me, and studied my face. You look like hell, little brother, she said bluntly. Feels accurate, I muttered. Any word from the cheating princess? Her friends are running damage control, I said, taking a long drink. Apparently I'm the villain for exposing her. Ren snorted. Of course you are. It's always easier to blame the person who got hurt than admit your friend is a walking disaster. A few regulars lingered at the far end of the bar. Ren had clearly shared a sanitized version of events. They nodded at me with quiet sympathy, offering drinks and condolences the way people do after a loss. And in a strange way, it did feel like grief. Not for Elara herself, but for the version of her I believed existed. That woman had never been real. Around 6 o'clock, the bar door opened, and in walked Derek and Mike Santos, one of my groomsmen. They exchanged a look with Ren that made it obvious this gathering had been orchestrated. Derek slid onto the stool beside me. We're taking you out, he announced. No discussion. I'm not really in the mood. Too bad, Mike cut in. You're not sitting here drowning in your own misery. Tonight we eat, we shoot pool. And we remind you that your life didn't end. Tomorrow you can go back to brooding if you want. Their stubborn loyalty left no room for argument. They ushered me out and drove to our usual steakhouse, the same place where we'd celebrated Derek's bachelor party years earlier. The familiarity was oddly comforting. Over dinner, I unloaded everything. The video, the phone calls, the accusations that I'd overreacted. They listened without interruption, their expressions hardening with each detail. Forget all of them, Mike said when I finished. You know what the real problem is? They're jealous. You had the courage to walk away. Most people stay trapped in bad relationships because it's easier than starting over. That doesn't make me feel better, I said. It's not supposed to, he replied. You should feel angry. Anger means you still value yourself. After dinner, they dragged me to a pool hall. I lost every single game while drinking more whiskey than I should have, but something shifted. The numbness lifted slightly, replaced by a sharper, more focused energy. Anger, when controlled, was strangely clarifying. Near midnight, Derek drove me home. The city lights blurred past the window as he asked the question I'd been avoiding. So what's next? I don't know, I admitted. I need time. Take it, he said. Just don't let what she did turn you into someone you're not. Don't let her steal more from you than she already has. When I reached my front door, an envelope lay on the floor inside, slipped beneath the frame. My name was written in Elara's precise handwriting. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. Inside was a 3-page letter written on expensive, cream-colored stationery. She wrote about fear, about commitment, about a moment of weakness. She apologized repeatedly, insisting she loved me, insisting that one terrible mistake shouldn't erase 3 years together. She suggested postponing the wedding, attending counseling, starting over somewhere new. She claimed her friends had been told to stop interfering. She ended with a declaration that losing me would be the greatest regret of her life. I read it twice, waiting for emotion to surface, anger, nostalgia, anything. Nothing came. The letter was eloquent, carefully phrased, and completely meaningless. I had already seen the truth she couldn't rewrite. Words couldn't compete with reality. I crumpled the pages and dropped them into the trash beside her earlier note. Then, I poured a drink and went to bed, hoping sleep might dull the sharp edges of everything I was feeling. 2 weeks passed without seeing her. 2 weeks of ignored calls, deleted messages, and deliberate silence. I began to believe the chapter had closed. I was wrong. On a quiet Saturday afternoon, I stood in a grocery store aisle, trying to relearn the mundane mechanics of cooking for one. I had just reached for a jar of pasta sauce when a familiar voice cut through the hum of conversation. "Adrian! Oh my God, Adrian!" I turned to see Jessica approaching with theatrical urgency. 2 other women from Elara's circle, Amanda Foster and Christine Yang, hovered behind her like a supporting cast. I faced the shelf again, hoping disinterest would be enough. It wasn't. "We need to talk," Jessica insisted. "About Elara." "No," I said calmly, "we don't." Amanda stepped closer, arms crossed. "You've ignored her for 2 weeks. Don't you think that's childish?" I set the jar back in place and turned to face them fully. "Childish," I repeated evenly. "I discovered my fiancé betrayed me with 2 strangers days before our wedding. I canceled the wedding. I moved on. That's not childish. That's self-respect. And you think I'm being childish for refusing to talk to her?" I asked, my voice steady despite the tension coiling in my chest. Christine folded her arms, her expression tight with disapproval. "She made a mistake," she said. "A stupid, drunken mistake. It happens." "But she loves you, Adrian," Amanda added, as if that single sentence should undo everything. "She's been miserable since this started." "Good," I said simply. The word landed like a slap. Jessica's eyes widened and her voice rose sharply, drawing curious glances from shoppers navigating their carts past us. "How can you say that?" she demanded. "You claimed to love her, and now you want her to suffer?" "I did love her," I replied, careful with the past tense. "And yes, I want her to understand that actions have consequences. That's not cruelty, that's reality." Amanda shook her head slowly. "You're being vindictive. The Adrian we knew would never act like this." "The Adrian you knew," I said calmly, "was an idiot who trusted someone who didn't deserve it. Consider this version an upgrade." Jessica inhaled sharply. "How dare you talk about her like that? What would you call someone who betrays their fiancé with strangers days before their wedding?" I asked. "A role model, a victim." "She panicked," Christine insisted. "She was scared about getting married. She made a terrible decision. That doesn't define her." "It defines her choices," I said, "and choices define character." Christine stepped closer, lowering her voice into something sharper. "You know what I think? I think you were looking for a way out. She's too good for you, and you knew it. This was just an excuse." Her words struck a nerve, but not in the way she expected. I felt something cool settle over my anger, clarity. "Too good for me?" I repeated. "Your friend dismantled a 3-year relationship for one night of validation from strangers. If that's your definition of too good, then I'm perfectly content being beneath it." Amanda opened her mouth again, ready with a defense. "She's beautiful, successful, sophisticated, and cheater," I finished. "Don't leave that part out." Jessica pulled out her phone, her movements quick and purposeful. "I'm calling her. She deserves to know I found you." Before she could complete the call, I reached forward and took the phone from her hand, ending it with a firm tap. "Give it back when you promise not to call her," I said quietly. "You can't avoid her forever," Jessica snapped. "You live in the same city, you share the same friends." "Had," I corrected, "past tense." I returned the phone. "Anyone who thinks betrayal is negotiable isn't part of my life anymore." Christine exhaled sharply. So you're cutting off everyone who disagrees with you. I'm cutting off anyone who thinks loyalty is optional. An older woman pushing a cart paused nearby, her expression weary. Could you please keep your voices down? There are children here. Jessica turned on her immediately. Mind your own business. I'm sorry, I told the woman gently. I was just leaving. I started to move away, but Jessica grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Adrian, please, she said urgently. Just talk to her 5 minutes, that's all she wants. I looked down at her hand, then back into her eyes. Let go of me. Not until you agree. Release my arm, I said evenly, or I will involve store security. She hesitated, then withdrew her hand, though her expression remained defiant. She's staying at the Fairmont downtown, she said quickly. Room 1247. Her parents won't let her come home. She has nowhere else to go. That's not my responsibility. She lost her job, Amanda added. Her bosses saw the video. They fired her. Still not my responsibility. Jessica stared at me as though seeing a stranger. How can you be this cold? She was going to be your wife. No, I replied. The woman I planned to marry existed only in my imagination. This is who she really is. I turned and pushed my cart toward the checkout lanes. Behind me, Jessica's voice followed, loud and insistent. She'll be at Murphy's pub tonight around 9. If you have any decency left, you'll show up. I didn't respond, but the words lingered. Murphy's had been ours once, a place filled with easy laughter and unguarded evenings. The thought of avoiding it indefinitely felt like surrendering territory that belonged to my own life. At home, I unpacked groceries without focus. The encounter had stirred something restless inside me, not doubt, not regret, just unfinished business. By 8:30, I had made my decision. I would go, not for reconciliation, not for closure, simply to reclaim a space that had never truly been hers. Murphy's was crowded when I arrived, alive with weekend noise and familiar music. I spotted her immediately. She sat in a corner booth surrounded by friends, her posture small, diminished. Her hair lacked its usual precision. Her face was pale, her movements subdued. She looked like someone who had been hollowed out. For a brief, involuntary moment, sympathy surfaced. Then memory replaced it. I approached the bar and ordered a beer, positioning myself where she could see me. It didn't take long. She noticed, spoke quietly to Jessica, and after a moment stood and walked toward me. Adrian, she said softly. Elara, thank you for coming. I didn't come for you, I replied. I came because I like this place, and I won't avoid it anymore. She flinched, absorbing the boundary. Can we talk privately? She asked, her voice barely audible over the hum of conversation around us. We're talking now, I replied. I mean really talk, she insisted. Not here, not with everyone watching. I glanced around and realized she wasn't exaggerating. Conversations had slowed, heads tilted subtly in our direction. The air carried that unmistakable tension of people pretending not to stare while listening to every word. Our story had become public currency, whispered across bar stools and phone screens. Privacy, even the illusion of it, no longer existed inside those walls. 5 minutes, I said at last. Outside. She nodded quickly, relief and desperation flickering across her face. We stepped through the front door into the parking lot. The cool night air was sharp against my skin. The noise of the bar faded behind us, replaced by the distant hum of traffic and the low buzz of streetlights. The moment we were alone, she broke. Tears spilled down her cheeks as if a dam had been holding them back until that exact second. Adrian, I'm so sorry, she said between ragged breaths. I know I've said it before, but I need you to know how deeply sorry I am. What I did, it was unforgivable. I hate myself for it. Good, I said quietly. You should. She winced but continued. I lost my job. Did Jessica tell you? Someone sent the video to my boss. They fired me immediately. No references, nothing. I can't even get an interview anywhere because word has spread. My parents won't speak to me. I'm staying in a hotel because I can't afford my apartment anymore. Her voice trembled. Everything is gone. She looked at me, searching my face for something. Sympathy, pity, anything that might soften the distance between us. And you're telling me this because? I prompted. Because I've lost everything, Adrian, everything except the hope that somehow you might forgive me. That's not going to happen. Please, she whispered. I know it will take time. I know I'll have to earn back your trust, but don't give up on us completely. There is no us, I said firmly. There hasn't been since I saw that video. But we were good together, she pleaded. We were happy, 3 years, Adrian. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It meant everything to me, I replied, until you threw it away for a few hours of entertainment with strangers. Her shoulders shook with sobs. I was scared. Terrified of getting married, of committing forever. I panicked. It was the worst decision of my life, but it doesn't erase everything we built. Yes, I said calmly. It does. She covered her face, mascara streaking across her cheeks. What can I do? Tell me what I can do to fix this. Nothing. There has to be something. I'll do anything. I met her gaze evenly. You can go back to Vegas and undo what you did. Can you do that? Her expression hardened with hurt. That's cruel. Not as cruel as what you did to me. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I said, and you enjoyed it. I heard you laughing. I heard you talk about how boring I was. You weren't thinking about me at all. I was drunk, she insisted weakly. I was trying to impress them. I didn't mean any of it. You weren't drunk, I said. Stop lying. Silence stretched between us. She studied my face carefully, as if recalculating her strategy. Adrian, she said softly, I love you. I know you don't believe that anymore, but I do. I've loved you since our first date. No, I said. You loved what I gave you, stability, devotion, comfort, but love doesn't betray, love doesn't humiliate, love doesn't choose strangers over commitment. That's not true, she insisted. People who love each other make mistakes all the time. Mistakes are accidents, I replied. What you did was a decision. She wiped her eyes, drawing in a shaky breath. What about forgiveness? What about second chances? Isn't that what love is supposed to be? Some things are unforgivable, I said. This is one of them. So you're throwing away 3 years because I'm not perfect. I'm ending it because you're dishonest and disloyal. That's not imperfection. That's character. Her voice sharpened defensively. I'm not a cheater. It was one time. Leela told me otherwise. Her face drained of color. She's lying. She's always been jealous. Everything else she told me proved true, I said. Why would this be different? She stepped closer, desperation replacing defiance. Please, give me one more chance. I'll prove I can be the woman you fell in love with. You can't be that woman, I said gently but firmly. Because she never existed. She was an image. I loved the idea of you, not who you truly are. I turned toward the entrance of the bar, signaling the conversation's end. Before I could take more than a step, her hand closed around my arm. Don't walk away from me, she said. We're not done. Yes, I replied, pulling free. We are. I won't accept that, she insisted. I love you and I know you still love me. I paused, then turned back to face her fully. You want the truth, I said. I don't love you anymore. I don't even like you. When I look at you, I see betrayal. I see lies. The person I loved is gone, if she ever existed at all. Something inside her seemed to collapse. She leaned against a parked car, sobbing uncontrollably, the sound raw, unguarded. You're destroying my life, she whispered. No, I said quietly. You destroyed your own life. I just chose not to be destroyed with it. I walked back toward the bar, leaving her behind in the glow of the streetlights. Inside, Jessica and her friends stood near the window, their expressions a mix of anger and disbelief. They had clearly watched everything unfold. You're a fool, Jessica said as I passed. And you're an enabler, I replied without slowing. Perfect match. I finished my drink alone, the noise of the bar settling into something distant, manageable. For the first time in weeks, the weight pressing against my chest had eased. The confrontation I had dreaded was over. There would be no reconciliation, no lingering uncertainty, no illusion of unfinished business. When I stepped outside later, the parking lot was empty. Her car was gone. So was the echo of everything we had once been. I drove home feeling lighter, not happy, not relieved in any dramatic sense, but steady, grounded, certain. Some endings don't arrive with closure wrapped neatly around them. Some arrive with clarity, and clarity, I realized, was enough.